ready for summer vacation. Are you ready for summer vacation?
So, it's May. It's the final month of the year, and you guys are going to leave me for summer. I won't see you again until August, but that doesn't mean you get the summer off from reading. The public library is open every day, and we still have ebooks on the library website that you can be checking out all year long. So I don't want to hear any excuses about not reading. You guys can always squeeze in a little bit of time to read. So before you leave me for the summer, I want to give you a quick preview into next year's award nominee books so you guys can get a little bit of a head start on what to be reading over the summer. Also, check the back of your last day of school report card because I'm going to have a recommended summer reading list on there for you too. So first, we are going to focus on the Mark Twain nominee books for next year, and I'm going to tell you all about 3 of the ones we're going to be talking about next year. Again, the Mark Twain list is for 5th and 6th graders, and the Truman list is for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So those 6th graders get to vote on both lists, which is super cool. And you have to read 4 of the books on the list to be able to vote in March. So first, let's talk about Escape from Mr. Limoncello's Library. Now, this book is really cool if you like to game, because the main character, Kyle, is a goofy class clown who is a gamer. And one of his gamer heroes builds a new library in his town, and it is super fancy. It's got all the cool stuff. And Kyle wins a contest to get to stay overnight in the library before it opens. And it's like not your old school kind of library, like lots of computers, lots of cool technology, lots of cool things. So these kids get to camp out for the night in Mr. Limoncello's library. And in the morning, they get to leave, except in the morning, the doors are locked. And nobody's getting out. And they have to solve all these clues and riddles and kind of schemes and puzzles to try to find their way out of the library. So Mr. Limoncello's Library will take you on a pretty crazy adventure. The next book we're going to talk about on next year's Mark Twain list is called Gabby, Lost and Found. And this is the story of a girl named Gabby whose mother has just been deported to Honduras. And so she lives alone with her dad, who doesn't pay nearly as much attention to her as she wished he did. He seems to be busy all the time. So Gabby volunteers her time at the local animal shelter, and she works with all the animals, and she writes advertisements to try to get people to adopt the animals. And she really has a cool connection with some of those animals, but a lot of the friends at school have noticed that maybe Gabby's life is a little messed up, and it's not like theirs, and so they make fun of her for it. And Gabby really struggles with accepting who she is and accepting her heritage as a strong Hispanic girl. And so a neat story of a girl kind of coming into her own. Check out Gabby, Lost and Found. So when I was trying to decide which of the Mark Twain books I was going to talk about, I finally settled on this crazy, crazy book. It's called What We Found in the Sofa and How It Saved the World. And this is one of the weirdest books I have read in a long time. It's about 3 kids named Freak, Fiona, and River, and they find an old beat-up couch in front of an abandoned house in their town, and they're kind of digging through the couches, and they find a zucchini-colored crayon. It's very specific, not green, zucchini-colored. And along with that crayon, they go on a million ridiculous adventures. This book is like taking every action, adventure, mystery, suspense book ever created and jamming it into one book. They get into, like, races, and there's aliens, and there's villains, and snake. It's just crazy. They run into 100 different adventures along the way, and in the end, the zucchini-colored crayon helps them save the world. So if you literally love a book that will turn upside down, inside out, and freak you out all along the way while having fun, you need to read What We Found in the Sofa and How It Saved the World. Next, we're going to check out the Truman books for next year. So now we're going to talk about some of the books on the next year's 2015-2016 Truman Award nominee list. This is an awesome list, and you guys are going to go nuts for it. Some of these you already know about. The first one is Prisoner B-3087. This book is about a young man who is living during the Holocaust, and he ends up in the concentration camp system, and he's bounced from concentration camp to concentration camp. He comes into contact with some of the meanest, cruelest people involved in the Holocaust. Now, this story is actually based on real events, and the author did write the book with the help of a man who lived through the Holocaust. So it is considered historical fiction. This is one of the best books I've read in the last several years, and I highly recommend it. The next one is called Rogue by Lynn Miller Lachman. And this book is about a girl who has Asperger's syndrome. So she doesn't have a lot of friends, she has trouble fitting in, and she doesn't always understand why people don't like her or what she's doing wrong. A new kid moves into her neighborhood, and they become friends. They're both really into skateboarding and comic books, and they have a lot to do together. But something is clearly not quite right at her new friend's house. And his parents keep sending them out to buy, like, cough medicine at all the pharmacies around town. And so things kind of get out of control. It gets a little crazy, but she ends up learning that you can't trust everyone as much as you wish you could. It is a pretty neat book, but it is going to be young adult. There's some pretty crazy stuff that goes on in this one, so that one will be young adult come fall. The final one we're going to talk about is called Inhuman, and this book is science fiction. It takes place in the future, and a major virus has come through and just wiped out tons and tons of people. And it was affecting the East Coast, out by New York and Florida and that whole area down there. And so people just ran to the West Coast, and they kind of quarantined the whole East Coast and built this huge wall along the Mississippi River, kind of along the edge of Iowa and Missouri where St. Louis is. They built this huge wall to hold everybody in. And no one is allowed into the quarantine zone. And so the main character is a young girl, and she's kind of at a party, and she's hanging out, and life's fine, and her mom's dead, but she lives with her dad, who's an art dealer, and everything's cool. And then the police show up, kind of like the FBI, and they take her in, and they arrest her, and they say it's because she could be infected, contaminated, and she's like, what? And so they basically force her to go into the quarantine zone and get her dad, who is there for not so legal reasons. Once she crosses into the quarantine zone, she comes in contact with what really happens to people when they get this virus. And it gets out of control from there. This is one of the coolest science fiction books I've read in a long time, and it takes a lot of twists and turns. It's actually the first book in a new series by Kat Falls, who wrote Dark Life from the Truman List a few years ago. So that's just a sneak peek into 3 of next year's Truman nominee books, and guys, it just gets better from there.
Hello world! I'm Kylie Peskinut from 5th grade. I'll be talking about Wait Till Helen Comes. Wait Till Helen Comes is about a girl and her brother, and they move to a new house, which is like a church, with their little stepsister. And their little stepsister is always talking about her friend named Helen, but Helen might not be what they think she is. I recommend this book to anybody who likes scary books.
I read the book Puppy Love, and it has all these different stories of dogs saving their owners and doing these cool tricks, and it was a really good book because there is all these different dogs, and one made the bear go away because he was trying to attack his owner. So I would read Puppy Love. It was a good book.
Guys, we haven't had too many new books come in this month because it's the end of the year, but here's what we have. The 14th Gold Book, a highly requested book. El Defoe, this is a great new graphic novel. Escape from Mr. Limoncello's Library. You heard me talk about this one earlier in What's New in the Library because it's on the Mark Twain list next year. Mike Lupica's new book, The Only Game. Half a World Away. Extra Innings. My Near-Death Adventures. And another super requested book, and it's really, really good, Fish in a Tree by Linda Mullally Hunt, who wrote One for the Murphys from this year's Truman List. Well, guys, that does it for the May edition of What's New in the Library. I'll see you in the fall.